Are we ready to begin? We've almost filled every seat. Woo! Yay! Good evening. Welcome to the January edition of Everyday Deep. For those of you I did not greet on the way, sorry.
No, it's Siri.
It's Siri. Yeah. Oh gosh. She's always after you. My name is Cindy Roseleaf, and along with my friend and partner Dale Emmett, we are your co-hostesses for this evening. Welcome, happy January. Thanks for coming out on a kind of a cold, rotten night, right? Yeah, so if you're new here, if you're here for the first time and you're wondering what this is all about, Everyday Deep is a monthly gathering of women. We offer a place and a platform for real women to share their stories. So each month we have a theme, we have 2 to 3 speakers, and tonight's theme is Trust the Universe. Ooh! I'm going to trust the universe at this It's just keep doing that. So, Everyday Deep is about community. It's about creating a place to support, celebrate, and grow with each other, with other women in the area. So I say this every time, I'm just going to keep saying it. We hope that you will find what you need here tonight. Maybe you want to reconnect with somebody. Maybe you walked in and you saw somebody you didn't know who was going to be here. Maybe make a new connection, that's good. Or if you just want to sit there and, don't want to talk to anybody, that's cool too. Yeah, whatever your heart needs. I hope that you find that tonight. So, trust the universe, and the holidays are over, right? The decorations are put away for the most part. The last kid has gone back to college. And I just ate the last Frango milk chocolate sea salt caramel. So, done. Done. Holidays are over. And after the holidays, it can get rough for some of us. The long, dark nights, the cold weather, it can kind of get you down. Not to mention, things that are happening in the world today can be overwhelming. I follow a fair number of news channels on my feed. Reader, but I also follow a few fashion and beauty blogs because you need to be well-rounded, ladies. That is my self-help tip for tonight. I know you wouldn't know that by looking at me, the fashion and beauty thing, but anyway, so because when you're scrolling through, it's all war, climate disasters, gun violence, and then all of a sudden it's like, 7 ways to style a sweater dress. Oh my God, that's so refreshing. I'm just gonna focus on that. So winter's here. Thank goodness we have nights like tonight to look forward to. Thank you, we appreciate you being here. I said our theme is Trust the Universe, and I'll be honest, that is not something that comes easily to me. I'm the kind of person that loves when it quiets down at the end of the day and I can finally curl up on the couch with a warm cup of tea and really just focus on things that are completely out of my control. It's hard. It's hard. I wish I was better at it, but I watched a fair number of Hallmark Christmas movies over the break. Right? Hallmark Christmas movies? I like to keep the TV on playing in the background, kind of as a constant reminder of all things good and simple. If you don't watch them, I will let you in on a little secret. It's all the same movie. It is. For one, they eat a lot of sugar. Lots of sugar. Have you noticed that? They're always eating cookies, baking cookies, decorating, going to decorating, cooking, baking, cookie contests, wearing cookie clothes. I don't know, so lots of cookies. So cookies are key. Also, the plot is basically the same. It goes kind of like this. Attractive, young heroine returns to her quaint hometown, Christmas jar, cookie jar town Phil. on a sunny morning when lots of happy folks are moving around town with their arms full of wrapped packages, she enters the local shop, opens the door to the tinkling of the bell, says, "Greetings, kindly shopkeeper." Usually an attractive older gentleman with a full set of shiny white teeth and a nice full head of white hair, abundant white hair. "Could I have a hot cocoa?" You never say hot chocolate. You know, you don't say chocolate, you say hot cocoa. Or just, "Could I have a cocoa?" A lot of cocoa drinking. "Sure thing, Sarah," he replies. "Extra marshmallows?" "Oh, you know me." "Thanks. I've got to go now. I've got to meet my attractive yet emotionally distant fiance who's arriving from the big city, even though I'm still secretly in love with my flannel shirt wearing high school flame, who I didn't think was exciting enough at the time. But I've since learned that he's now the mayor. He has a PhD in astrophysics, and he runs the orphanage. And we've got to save the mitten factory. That's it. So you don't need to watch. That's what it's like. So, it would be easy to trust the universe, wouldn't it, if life was like a Hallmark movie, but it's just not that formulaic. It's not always that neatly wrapped up. I remember after my mom died, and it's been 15 years now, I was desperate for some kind of sign from her, some communication from the great beyond that everything was going to be okay, that I was going to be okay. Never saw anything, never felt anything. And many people believe that when a cardinal appears in your yard, you've heard of this, hopefully, that it's a visitor from heaven. And I had certainly seen cardinals over the years, but never in a way that I thought they were speaking to me. So imagine my surprise when the week of Christmas, 2 cardinals, a male and a female, made a nest right outside my window. I literally lost my breath when I saw them peering in at me, because my dad is gone now almost 2 years. So this is it, I thought. This is my sign. Finally, 2020 is really going to be my year. You know, no more excuses, no more grieving, time to be happy. And over the next couple of days, I would stop them and I'd feel this warm reassurance that they were still with me. I would often be elsewhere in the house and hear tapping on the window. Sure enough, I'd go down and Mom was tapping on the glass, tapping, flying away, tapping, coming back. Yeah, and I'd reach my hand out. "I'm here! Thank you, universe. Thank you, Mom. I get it. All is well." But Mom would look startled and she would just fly away. When she saw me, which I found annoying. I mean, wasn't she supposed to have a message? So after a few days of this, I got suspicious, so I asked my best friend Google, what was up with the cardinal tapping on the window? I'm sure you know where this is going. Well, apparently, female cardinals are very territorial and will mistake their own reflection in a window as another bird and try to attack it. So imagine my disappointment to find that my spirit animal mom is just a dumb derphead that can't tell she's looking at a reflection of herself in a window. She's still tapping, was still tapping today. And now it just kind of feels like nagging, you know? Okay, Mom, I get it, I hear you. You know what, so maybe it really is her. Dale had, when I was telling her the story, she had a much more deep and profound interpretation of this, didn't you? Yeah. All right, come on up and tell your spirit animal story. Yeah.
Is this okay?
Yeah. Like you want to hold it, or?
No.
I mean, it's loose. It keeps goosing around.
So I did ask you though, Cindy, if you trusted Google
Right,
more than you trust the
that was an
universe.
annoying thing to ask me, but
Yeah.
maybe.
Okay, so
Yeah, tell them your story.
So yes, I have an animal mystery story too. And it's about 6 years ago, and I was trying to decide if I wanted to pursue becoming a spiritual director. And I really wanted to do it, but it was a big expense, a 2-year commitment, so I really wanted to think about it. So I went outside onto my front porch, and I thought, I'm just gonna meditate on it, close my eyes, center myself. I'm out there all of 2 minutes when my dog darts off the furniture and tears off after something. And I open my eyes and I'm like, what is that? So I'm like, and it was like under a bush and gone in a minute. And I'm like, is that a beaver in my front yard? What is this? All I knew was I'd lived there over 10 years. I had never seen an animal like this. And it appeared at precisely the time that I was seeking inner guidance. I went on Google too.
Yes.
And I found out it's a groundhog, not a beaver, a groundhog or a woodchuck.
Okay.
I've told you guys before all of my dreams that I have, so I just happen to have an animal symbolism book. So I pulled that out.
Don't we all?
I could question one. Sure, I got it. So here's just part of what it said about the groundhog totem. Groundhog is known for its digging and tunneling ability. Symbolically, this reflects the ability to get deep within an area of interest. It is not unusual to have a groundhog appear at a time when a new area of study is about to open up. Since a groundhog does not fully mature for about 2 years, its appearance can reflect 2 years of intensive study, digging, and building. So I did it. I was going to anyway, but I don't know, it could have just been a crazy coincidence, right?
Yes.
You're a cardinal, but a really good one, right?
Yeah.
So I think, Cindy and I are just telling silly stories, but they're really about having wonder, right? And kind of being interested in what the universe might be saying. And we have 2 wonderful speakers tonight. No more animal stories that I'm aware of, but real life experiences that they've had of learning to trust the universe. So, and you hear a phrase like that, trust the universe, and it sounds so abstract, but Everyday Deep is about real women, real stories, and bringing a big idea like that down to earth into everyday life. So we're really excited about tonight. Our first speaker is Peg Chaydez, and Peg is going to talk about embracing whatever life brings to you and the power of love when you do. So please welcome Peg Chaydez.
Before I get started, when I was getting ready this afternoon, my youngest son, Owen, wanted to make me his good luck dinner, which is macaroni and cheese with Funyuns and Dr. Pepper. Standing here now, I'm very glad I said to hold off, but I would like to invite everyone over to our house after for some cold mac and cheese and some Funyuns, and see how you feel after that. So when I got pregnant with my 3rd child, with Owen, the pregnancy felt different. It was not the same. I wasn't sick, I wasn't in pain, I just never really felt Owen move, and I could tell it was just odd, like something was off. My husband and I were waiting at the doctor's office to find out the gender. I do not need my glasses. He was hoping for a girl, and I was secretly hoping for twin boys. We had 2 older boys at home. I wanted a huge family. My husband wanted a small family. And at 36, I was labeled high risk because, I was too old, according to my doctor, to be having babies. In actuality, my second son was born with a heart defect, so that plus my age made us high risk. We waited, and we were joking around as a technician, scanning my belly, and she's not engaging in any small talk with us. And okay, so we're waiting, she's not saying a word, and she slowly stops and says she has to step out of the room to talk to the doctor. Now at this point, I can't panic. I've gone through this before. I know that it's usually not normal for them to step out to get the doctor. They'll usually tell us something in the room. But if I panic, then my husband's gonna panic. And then if we both panic, everything's off, and it's just gonna be a huge mess. So I kept repeating to myself in my head, nothing is wrong, everything's okay, reassuring him and just waiting. The doctor steps back into the room. He's looking through the monitor, he's not saying anything. This is a man that I trusted. This is a man who dealt with my second pregnancy, with my son turned out fine. I trusted that he would see me not as just another patient on a table, but he would see me as a mother first. That might have been my first mistake. He stops, he turns to us, and he says, I'm sorry. This isn't good. Your child might have trisomy 13 or trisomy 18. There's a chance the child won't survive the pregnancy or may die soon after. You should consider your options. Consider your options. Now, I'm lying there, trisomy what? Trisomy 13, trisomy 18, I have no idea what he's talking about. I'm staring at the ceiling, tears are starting to come out of my eyes, trying to keep it together, I'm looking at my husband, and I'm terrified. We discuss getting a second opinion. We leave the doctor's office. We ride home in silence. At home, we try to talk about what we just learned, or what we don't know. I start crying, my husband starts crying, just hard, ugly, scared tears. We're alone in our kitchen, we hug each other tight, and we just sink to the floor. We sat there for a little bit, trying to figure out what to do. We don't want to share the news with our family because we don't know. We can't say anything to our friends because we don't want anyone to worry. But we don't know at this point, and we're afraid if we say it out loud, it could be true. And I never expected anything bad to happen with my pregnancies. I don't know why. Bad things happen all the time. But it never occurred to me that something would happen. We knew that we would never consider our options. This child was ours, and we had to believe that the doctors could be wrong. Doctors can always be wrong, right? We just had faith that this child was going to be okay, but it would take 3 more specialists before we finally had a diagnosis. Arthrogryposis multiplex congenita. So again, we're getting a medical degree here as we're going through and learning all these different terms that they're throwing out. Never heard of arthrogryposis. I had to have the doctor write it down, so of course I could go home and Google it after and see what it was. Well, at this point, we find out arthrogryposis is an umbrella term. It can be associated with 400 different syndromes. It can be genetic, it can be sporadic. It's essentially multiple joint contractures and low muscle tone. The geneticist told us that we could expect 18 to 35 surgeries, countless therapies. She didn't promise that it would be fine, but we had a chance. She was really the first person to give us hope. So we went home and we chose the name Owen, which means noble in Gaelic. His middle name would be Daniel, after a cousin that passed away from cancer. We figured 2 strong names that would help the baby defy the odds. And the day Owen was born, and I picked this day, I have a birthday book, and I went through and we picked his name and we gave him strength, and we picked April 10th because of the characteristics of strong, noble. It was the right day for this child. So the day he's born, there's at least 8 specialists in the room because they had no idea what was going to happen. They didn't know if he would live, they didn't know if there would be complications. Doctors are kind of laughing and talking. My husband and I are just terrified. I'm having a C-section, which I had never had before. We just didn't know what to expect. And I've never been so scared in my life. And I wanted the doctors to feel that same, fright that I had. I wanted them to be with us and not joke around. We were waiting for the sound of a baby crying, waiting to see if the doctors were wrong. When they first showed me Owen before taking him away, it's hard to see in this picture, but his right leg was twisted on his left shoulder. His left leg was twisted all the way behind his back. Fingertips, his arms were locked at his side with his fingertips touching his inner forearms, and then his feet were folded in half. Despite the C-section, he was red, swollen, and he had a red flame from his forehead down to the top of his nose. The kids with arthrogryposis look the worst at birth, and then they get better, but no one told me that. When I first saw him, I felt love, I felt relief, and I felt fear. I really had, at that point, never been so scared in my life. All along, I said I was gonna do it, this is fine, I have a plan. And when he came and I saw him, I just didn't know if I could do this. When we went home, I threw myself into figuring out what we had to do to help Owen. I wanted to learn everything I could. I wanted to find the best specialists. I wanted to find the best therapists. I was gonna manage everything. So I told my boss at the time about the diagnosis, the life of therapies, the expected number of surgeries, and he said, I have a physical therapist you have to meet. She helped my son. I wouldn't know it then, but this would be the first time that fate in the universe would step in to guide me, because this therapist had actually treated kids with Owen's condition. It's a rare condition, it's 1 in 3,000, but now I found someone who is in Hinsdale, minutes away. She knew what it was, she knew how to treat it, and the child she was treating was 13 years old. So at this point, I should also mention, I hate asking for help. I refuse to ever admit that I can't do anything on my own. So this quality is not really going to be helpful as I'm trying to navigate a world of daily therapies, dealing with my 4-year-old, my 3-year-old, working full-time, trying to manage everything, learning, all the different medical terms, being organized about all the appointments, which I might not be as organized as I should be. And I was going through the motions, but I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't asking for help. Anyone who'd ask, it's fine, I have it. I could do that for you, I can volunteer, I can do it, I always have it. But those thoughts kept filling my head, and I believe that everyone was waiting for me to fail. I don't know why, but I was always worried that people were just watching and waiting for me to just crack under the pressure. When you're about to hit bottom, you don't always see the signs. One night, the older boys woke up crying, I was sleeping in the living room with Owen. I went to the top of our stairs, still asleep. You know, I grabbed the boys, one under each arm, because I'm the do-it-all, and I went to take them down the stairs, only I stepped off the top stairs and fell 16 stairs. Luckily, I was able to grab the boys and, you know, shield them, but I landed at the bottom and I broke my foot. But the boys were fine. That was my bottom. My husband and I agreed it was time for me to get help, and I had to learn how to ask for help. So I spent hours on the internet, because that's what you do. You know, don't go see a therapist, go Google it. Searching for an answer, I knew there had to be something, a simple solution out there, just the magic answer to make it easy. I found an article on mindset, and 2 words burned in my mind: amor fati. It's a Latin expression that translates to love of fate. It's a mindset that you take on for making the best out of anything that happens, treating each and every moment, no matter how challenging, as something to be embraced, not avoided. To not only be okay with it, but love it and be better for it. Amor fati. It's a love of what happens, because that's your only option. So that's easy. Now I have my mantra, my 2 words. And that should be it. But remembering words is one thing. Starting to shift your mindset and live by this is extremely hard. I was trying to teach myself every time to reframe every interaction as something to be embraced. If it was a surgery and the surgery didn't go well, you know, where's the positive in that? Is the surgery going to maybe, you know, move us a little bit closer? Is it going to give us a better understanding of Owen's condition? I've lost jobs because of time off due to all the medical appointments. Trying to understand that you'll always end up in a better spot. It really sucks when it happens, but it takes practice to just keep saying, something better will come along. There's a learning I'm supposed to have. Just embrace what this is. Stop trying to control everything. As I shifted my mindset, life slowly got better. It didn't get easier, but it got better. And a weight was lifted off my shoulders. I learned that I was open to whatever the universe had to tell me. And in time, I would start to see signs. So we joke about cardinals and groundhogs, but when you start to look for signs, you'll see them everywhere. I stopped fighting. I stopped just letting things go and relax and go with the flow. When I hit a wall, I learned to pivot and follow a different direction. And the direction would just take me to where I needed to be. 2 examples of how this works. So Owen, just last year, had 2 surgeries in Florida. In November and December, we were gone for about 7 weeks, and the goal of the surgeries was to help Owen walk. It was hard enough being away from my family at Christmas. It was stressful managing his care alone, while trying to work, trying to manage things back here, trying, you know, to manage all his appointments over there. We were isolated in a hotel, and I'm cursing the situation that was getting harder every day. He's 85 pounds, 5 feet tall, and the surgery had him casted with his legs straight out. So anytime I lifted him, he had to be lifted pretty much as a board. And he was in pain, and he would wince, and I would get mad, and a lot of frustration, a lot of mother-son bonding time. Some words were exchanged every once in a while, but we got through it. So one day we decided to rent a car and go exploring. It's pouring rain, get a cab, And I'm trying to quickly unload Owen at the car rental, and the cab driver's getting frustrated because this is 2 days before Thanksgiving. Everyone's in a rush. There's a line of people behind us. We get this manual wheelchair out. I can't put it together. Like I thought I could, but I really couldn't figure it out. I'm getting frustrated. I'm trying to put the legs on it. And out of nowhere, this man comes up and just pops the 2 legs on. And at this point, I'm just ready to completely lose it, start swearing, and he just had this calming effect. So I said thank you, and I went to get Owen out of the cab. It's raining. Very hard to get someone straight as a board out of a van, as I learned. I went to pick him up, and he slid. Right at that moment, same man comes, scoops him up, turns, and gently places him in the chair. So again, every time I needed something that day, this man stepped up to help. So the car rental place, of course, is not accessible, because this is just the theme of everything I was going through that day. So now, I'm forced with a decision. Do I leave Owen outside, with a man I don't know? I can watch him through the window, but in my head I'm thinking, it's Florida, I'm a bad mom if I leave my kid, just had surgery, out with someone I don't know, but we really need a car, and I'm not quite sure what to do, or maybe we just go home. But something about his smile, about Mac, his smile made me trust him. So I told Owen, I'm gonna go inside, watch you through the window, you stay with Mac. Luckily, Mac did not try and get away with the wheelchair. And as it turns out, they're laughing outside, they're taking pictures together, they're doing all this stuff when I came back out. Well, Mac works at the hospital that we were at, only I didn't know this. He's actually studying to be a nurse, and we have this little conversation, and he has this light about him, this smile, that, you want to be his friend, you want to be around him. And everyone was kind of joking. And I thought, okay, good to see you. And I couldn't have asked for a better angel to step into my life at that moment. But again, here's where trusting the universe and Amor Fati collide. Owen and I always look for opportunities to recognize acts of kindness. So we decided to go home and said, I'll write a letter to the hospital staff. I wrote a letter to the chief of staff at the hospital, and all I did was share the story, share my gratitude, and just say, my son's a patient at the hospital, we met this man, it was amazing, this is exactly what we needed, and I threw a picture in there. So, we weren't expecting anything. They wrote back and they said, thank you for recognizing our employee, this is great. Well, I was wrong because it didn't end there. Mac ended up receiving an award from the hospital. He was recognized in front of leadership and the staff. What's more amazing is the president of the university he's attending saw the story and awarded him a full ride for his nursing degree. So while the surgeries ultimately didn't work out for Owen, it wasn't the magic we thought it would be, we're thankful for the people and the experiences we met along the way. Now, every time we go back to Florida, we have dinner with Mac and his family. He's texting us all the time. He was in Haiti doing a mission trip. He's sending us pictures. He's calling us to make sure that Owen is doing okay. And so, again, it wasn't where we thought we would be, but what we got from that experience was amazing. The second story, the last one for the night, I promise, is some of you might know that I built the inclusive playground at Hillcrest. This is a playground for kids of all abilities. It has a rubber surfacing so it's accessible. It took 2 years to build it. And when I started the project, I had no background in playgrounds. I had no background in fundraising. All I knew was my son couldn't access the playground. It has to be really easy. It's a good idea. We'll go out to the community. 3 months, we'll raise all the money. Because I thought it was like $40,000 to build a playground. It is not. So it took a few challenges to overcome. I had to understand it's actually not going to be 40,000, but closer to 450,000, which became 600,000. It's fine. We'll just go through. It's going to happen. Start going through the fundraising. I'm dealing, the school district and the village, and trying to learn all this. And then the question was, who's going to hold the money? You're not a nonprofit. You need a fiscal partner. Start going through, trying to find one. No, 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 no. I heard no so many times until one day I decided to volunteer at a photo shoot. I wasn't planning on going to the shoot that day. I was helping a friend out. And normally I wouldn't be as outgoing as I was that day, but I was frustrated and I shared the story. The universe put me exactly where I needed to be, because that day I met a woman named Sharon Duncan. She's an advocate for children with disabilities. She's a president of Abide in Me, which is a nonprofit with a mission to help adults with disabilities live active and engaged lives. I told Sharon my story. She agreed to be the fiscal partner. It was really that simple. One yes. She was my first yes. As I continued to try and raise funds, I would hit a wall. And I couldn't see a way to meet my goal. Owen kept telling me, "You're super, Mom. You'll get it done. You always find a way to make it happen." So there's no pressure. Then one day a woman named Barb Gullick emailed me to meet. We talked and she asked me to meet her partner, Ron McDaniel, share the project with him. Okay. We met, then they wanted to meet Owen. And this is where it gets interesting. So Owen, we go to breakfast. Owen puts on his favorite Star Wars tie. And I said, you're gonna have to just, in your own words, answer any questions. Okay, I got it. It's like, don't be shy. If they ask something, tell them. We start talking, and it's like I wasn't even in the room. Owen's carrying on the conversation with them. I'm not saying a word. And it went from, we will help you raise, we'll raise part of the money for the project. And that was okay. And then little by little it was, what would it take to build this park the right way? Came up with a number and they agreed to fund the full project. Not because of me. It honestly was because of Owen. If you never met Owen, he's very charismatic. He has a way of just drawing people to him. And there's something, he's my kid, so I can say this, but there's just something about him that you just wouldn't do anything for. And he's a great way of advocating for himself and for other people. I call him my chief inspiration officer. So Bob and Ron agreed to fund the rest of the project. This picture gets me all the time. And it's so hard because it's so emotional. On the day of Owen's Playground opening in 2016, it's warm and sunny during the day. The evening comes, and all of a sudden, torrential downpour. The crowd gathers, everyone's gonna give their speech, and no one really cares about it, but we all have to say something. And the rain is coming in sideways, and kids are running and sliding on their bellies on the pavement like the kids don't care. We're all laughing, holding paper that's all wet, because we have to say our speech. We tried to talk about the importance of the playground over the rain. We finally gave up. At this moment, Owen and his friend Eric go to cut the ribbon, and as soon as they cut the ribbon, boom, the rain stops. And that happens. It was the biggest rainbow I think I've ever seen. It stretched across the sky and it hit the sidewalk. And for me, I knew that was a sign from my mom, who had passed away before Owen was born. This was her gift to me. This was her gift to Owen. Another parent who had lost a child told me the rainbow was a gift from her son. And I think many of us saw signs that day, and I'd like to think that we all found meaning in that experience. So tonight, as I leave you with the rainbow, and I leave you with a Latin lesson, I want you to remember the power of love and to trust the universe. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions or comments for Peg?
Peg, tell us the name of your
Yes.
organization and your website.
Oh, so from this whole experience, I decided to leave my job in advertising and create a nonprofit called Dream Build Play Experience. We help communities design, fundraise, and build inclusive playgrounds. We are helping with the project at Lester Elementary. So we have 2 playgrounds that will open this summer, and we have another one in Aurora that will happen in the summer as well. And then we have Burr Ridge, Chicago, and a few other locations.
All right, so I created this slide for you. This is a quote. I learned that if I was open to whatever message the universe delivered, I would see the meaning in time. So,
Yes, thank you.
anybody? Anything else?
Thank you, Peg. That was great. I'm trying to think if there's a Joseph Campbell quote. It's something like, when you let go of what you think your life is going to be and embrace what life really has, like that's when you really start to live. So thank you for sharing with us. So our next speaker, so we learned about Peg through Janine Murphy, who unfortunately had car trouble and couldn't come tonight. Janine was a former speaker. And our next speaker, Jennifer Lowe, we learned about from Michelle Mobley in Everyday Deeper. And she had seen Jennifer in concert and learned that Jennifer lived in Downers Grove. And that sounded like something different and interesting to learn about the life of a musician who lives locally. And meeting Jennifer, I found out there was so much more to her story than I was expecting. So I know you're going to enjoy this and relate to it in your own way. So please welcome Jennifer Lowe.
Thank you. Well, I can't think of a better way to break the ice because I am not nervous anymore. So I think the way we're going to do this is a little bit on the old school side, but I'm just going to hold the microphone up and you'll get the point I'm trying to make here. So here we go. You think? Exciting year of my life. because as you can see, my rock violin group, the Cover Girls Violin Show, was invited to perform with the band Chicago live on stage for 13 of their shows this past year. Now, in contrast to what you just saw in the video, in 2006, what I need to say is that that was obviously an incredible personal honor to get to be able to do that. But it was also a personal and professional highlight that back a little over a decade ago, I could not have even imagined for myself, because in 2006, I was defeated, I was in a depression, I was having panic attacks on stage, and I was considering changing my career altogether, thinking that I may never play the violin again. So my name is Jennifer Lowe. I do live here in Downers Grove, and my journey with the violin began when I was 4 years old, and I was also quite the baby ballerina, it seems. In fact, by the time I was 10, what I really loved to do most was to make up shows, and I would make up stories, I would make up dances. But it wasn't until I was 40 that I was actually able to imagine a way to professionally combine my violin performance, my dance and my cheerleading experience, my theatrical background with my love of classic rock and popular music. So, as a classically trained violinist, my career path was predictably full of rehearsals and concerts, church cantatas, orchestras, chamber ensembles, weddings, and recitals. And for fun, I played in a couple of wedding bands here in Chicago where we got to have some fun with the music. We got to play some of those great iconic rock string parts from the Sinatra book or the Beatles book or Motown, things like that. So in 2005, my wedding band leader approached me with a question. You see, he was off taking a business development workshop of his own in order to grow his own music business. And with that, there is a theory that an individual can build a business up to, let's say, $1 million mark on their own with a considerable amount of talent, goodwill, and hard work. But if you want to move your business past that threshold, there really needs to be a cultivating of people and of talent and ideas that are around you, and you energize those people and you use that to push you through that to that next threshold. So my band leader simply approached me at one point and said, what would your dream gig be? And I had always known, so I said to him, I want to stand on a stage, I want to wear leather pants, and I want to play Stairway to Heaven. So his eyes lit up and he said, I want it now, and I'm going to make all of my resources available to you. I will give you access to my office, to my band, to my arrangers. So I went ahead with that and started making a set list of all the songs that I ever wanted to play. I actually even made all the other violinists in the section go out and buy leather pants and rock tops. And then I imagined how all this was going to work together with the movement. So we began performing choreographed dinner shows for these weddings out on the dance floor with the rhythm section for this band. And the resulting product was actually such a hit that before too long, some of his clients were saying, you know, how do we book the violins without the band? So for me, it was thrilling because, you know, having struggled for a while with really all these divergent interests and having found a way, really, in essence, to combine them all, I really felt like I had found my home in this group. So meanwhile, my band leader was off to another business development workshop, and this time the lesson was, once you have energized your business, once you have tapped the potential of the people around you and created new ideas, new exciting products, then you need to own them. So in 2006, I was given a contract that I was required to sign that would, in essence, sign over the intellectual property rights of my idea, my dream, to my band leader. So I was stunned at first, but then when I realized that he wasn't kidding, I was crushed. It felt in that moment like I had handed my baby to someone to hold, and that person simply walked off and said, no, not yours, never was. You see, there's precedent in the business community that I didn't know at the time, but when an idea is created within the context of a company, it belongs to the company. I didn't know that, and I guess I should just say, now I do. So, rather than sign the contract, I quit my position with that band entirely, with no legal option than to leave that organization with the product I had developed. So in hopes that I could walk away on my own and start one again on my own. I walked away at that point not knowing what was going to happen, but would ultimately just collapse into what were the darkest years of my life. Now, none of this happens in a vacuum. I had a lot of support from friends and colleagues who were supportive of my leaving. They were supportive of me, you know, getting right back out there. Getting right back out there and getting on the horse and starting over again. Okay, now we're having microphone troubles. Maybe I'll just stand still like that. Okay. So all that support and encouragement was wonderful, but I just wasn't ready. So while I was contemplating what was to come next, of course, in came the voices that said, you know, how could you be so stupid? But really more accurately, how could you be so naive? You're too weak to do this on your own. You're unqualified to do this on your own, and you certainly don't have any of the resources financially or musically to do this on your own. But nevertheless, I tried. Every few months, it seemed, I would start with some version of these kinds of words of it, like, I'll show them. They can't keep me down. Or, you know, everybody's watching, I should figure out how to do this. But each one of those false starts had one thing in common, and that was the lack of a heart-connected foundation. See, these were attempts made in reaction to what I thought others were expecting of me. So, after a year, I just quit trying. So in 2007, I was still defeated, but I was back in the comfortable environment of my classical colleagues, and then it happened. So I was in the middle of my favorite musical time of the year. I was on stage with the Illinois Philharmonic. We were in the middle of the audience Christmas sing-along portion of our concert when, out of the blue, my heart started pounding. I broke into a sweat. I started to see stars. The room started spinning, and I knew at that minute that if I did not grab my violin and hightail it off through the middle of the section, off to the back of the stage, I was going to pass out right on stage in the middle of that concert. I got backstage, I sat down, put my head between my knees, nothing helped. I laid myself flat on the floor, I still couldn't breathe. The stage manager called 911, and because I was convinced I was having a heart attack. And by the time the EMTs came a few minutes later, I had sort of regained my breath a bit. And by the time they finished taking all my vitals and checking me out, they said, "You're fine." So I went out of an abundance of caution to see my regular physician. The next day he ordered some additional tests, and they of course all came back normal as well. That was it. I had a panic attack. So now I had anxiety. And things actually went from bad to worse, because from that point on now, I had an irrational, albeit well-founded, fear of being on stage. These panic attack symptoms had come on with no warning. I was assuming that they could come back at any time, and that terrified me. I had done some mental work to convince myself to continue playing my classical schedule with the help of a Xanax prescription. Only to find out that time and time again, I had panic attacks on stage, even with medication. So before long, I was turning down basically every job that came in. So retreating from my classical career was a huge financial hit for my family, and I began to see a therapist to explore some of my other interests and some of my other skills, and to see that there might be another potential career path in there for me. I mean, after all, my husband and I have rental properties, so I might go into real estate, or I figured I'd certainly played enough weddings in my life that I might enjoy getting ordained, or even being a wedding planner, I don't know. During that time, I still was playing with a couple of wedding bands here and there, just for fun. And I began to realize, though, that when I was on those jobs, I never, ever had a twinge of anxiety. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, those are just silly jobs. That's where, the music's fun, the atmosphere is festive, nobody's paying terribly close attention to what you're playing. I mean, really, all our job was to just play and dance and have fun with the music. Aha. So you see, what had happened, I finally discovered, was that I had just really burnt out a neural pathway. I had, and I call that my classical music pathway. It's the one that demands perfection, it demands precision, it's that stiff classical posture, and it's that poor girl, since the time she was 4, going through all of that years of critical, punishing self-talk. So from that point, the world of playing popular music on my violin became my refuge. So all told, it was about 3 years of darkness before my dream, quite literally, to start a new violin show came true. I simply woke up one morning after having had a really vivid dream of my old group performing before a large and very enthusiastic crowd. And that sense of urgency that it created when I woke up didn't leave, though, after I woke up. In fact, I woke up with the name right there on my tongue. We were going to be the Cover Girls. And it was going to be a perfectly joyful expression of all the things that I loved. It was going to be my favorite music, my favorite dance moves, my favorite people, and my favorite color. So when people ask me what shifted in all that time, I have to be honest, I'm not really sure. But what I do know is that timing is, in fact, everything. I learned that when the timing is right, grace and magic can happen, and that inspiration comes sometimes when we've all but let go of the outcome. So as I'm relating this to tonight's theme of trusting the universe, for me, all that really meant was not giving up the dream, even if it appeared to not be moving forward, even if it appeared to be taking too long, even though I was embarrassed that it appeared as if I couldn't actually do this on my own. And I also learned that when the timing is right, the universe will give you exactly what you need. In my case, it was a perfectly timed phone call. It was from a colleague who had been one of my big supporters when I struck out on my own. And he had a lead on a potential job for my as yet unformed group. And as Leonard Bernstein once said, to achieve great things, 2 things are needed: a plan and not quite enough time. So I booked the date for us with just under 4 months to prepare, and then afterwards set up to find the right players to join me. So living in a big, beautiful city like Chicago, I'm blessed to know many talented people. So as I was trying to imagine the women who would come with me, there were 4 that actually appeared to me in my mind's eye with a sort of magical, sparkly fairy dust around them. And these women, incidentally, are still with me after 10 years. One of them is hiding in the back corner. So that very first gig back in December of 2009, look, we're babies, oh my gosh, was a big hit. And like I said, we pulled it off with just barely enough time. Fortunately, I did have business cards printed because after our show, there was a little gaggle of women who followed us back to our dressing room who wanted to book us for their events, and I was thrilled. So the good friend who took that picture of us that night said, he goes, "Do you have a website?" And I'm like, no, we haven't gotten there yet. So he implied that that could be a problem because these people would probably be going home and want to be looking us up. So at that night, after our very first show, packed up, went home, got on the computer, stayed up till 4 in the morning, and made our very first Wix website. So before long, on the website, I was receiving all kinds of interesting inquiries from all sorts of interesting places, some of which even seemed to be a little too good to be true. One morning I got up and there was something in my inbox from someone at deepakchopra.com. I thought it was spam. Anyway, this person was asking if we wanted to come to California and play for his Sages and Scientists Symposium. So it was in that moment that I realized, that this group has a life of its own. It is attracting opportunities and things like that, and I began calling myself at that point the former director of the Cover Girls Violin Show. Because really, I just get up in the morning, I grab my coffee, and I go answer its emails. So fast forward to 2018, and in the spirit of that same kind of magic, we had been invited to New York City to perform for our very first gala out there. We were very excited. And after our show, there was a gentleman who tapped me on the shoulder and he said, there's a man at table 8 who'd like to talk to you. He's the manager of the band Chicago. So from that night, we began a relationship with the band, and that ultimately ended up in us being invited to tour and perform with them on 13 of their shows last year in 2019. And in the process of working with them, we also learned that the Cover Girls are the very first women to have ever shared their stage in the 53 years of their life. So I have to say, this has been a really wonderful experience pulling this all together for you, but for me as well, because as I had an opportunity to really reflect on that deep pain and disappointment from 13 years ago, I can honestly say now, looking back, that that anxiety was the best thing that ever happened to me. And incidentally, I had the thrill of performing on some stages this past year for many thousands of people. And I imagine there might be a few of you out there that are wondering, so, how was it? So my heartfelt answer is no panic, just joy. So I'm going to finish. Thank you. Yes. I want to finish this evening by playing something for you, and I'm going to need your help. So I'm going to get this and you hold that. I was just going to say, this song, in closing, has been a bit of the soundtrack that has kind of shown up on my journey, no pun intended, with the Cover Girls. So I'm going to play for you, actually, these 3 simple words of encouragement.
That she's often played at.
Oh, excellent. Yes, absolutely. Oh, there it is. Yes.
But she hasn't been around for a while. So
I know why. Because she's very busy.
Anybody else? Yes, Kristen.
I saw your show at Ravinia with Chicago.
Amazing.
It really, when you all came out on stage, everybody kind of woke up and it was great. And Chicago was great. I mean, the trumpet or the trombone player,
yeah, Jimmy.
It was a great show. But you ladies made the show. It was really fantastic. You drew everybody was awesome.
Yeah. be the band, had you done some things on your own, just as a group, without Chicago?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And what I meant by that was that when we were playing with that wedding band back then. So we did, yes, actually spin ourselves off from needing, so we perform either with tracks or a live band or Chicago. So.
Anybody else? All right, so here's your quote. I learned that grace and magic happen when the time is right, and that inspiration comes sometimes when we've all but let go of the outcome. I know you're going to get music tonight, huh? What a treat. Okay. This is you. So, okay.
I just want to apologize again for the technical
Yeah, so
difficulties.
sorry.
Because
We tried it before.
I know.
at the time we did practice, but thank you, Peg and Jennifer, for sharing your honest journeys of learning to trust the universe with us. And what I love about your stories, and I think most every month, is that we get a glimpse into people's very unique and personal stories, but they're so universal, and we all have our own versions of them, and give us a lot to think about. So thank you both very much. Oops. We are going to continue on with this whole trusting the universe theme, and next month we're going to have a small group called the Heart to Trust. And like Peg said, we're going to try to treat each and every moment, no matter how challenging, as something to be embraced and not voided, to not only be okay with it, but to love it and be better for it. So that's going to be the focus of our small group. And we're not saying that we're experts, right?
No.
I mean, we struggle ourselves. But it's really, what we hope to do in small groups is to give you the time and space to explore your own story, and time for introspection and reflection, and to share with other people. It's really important to know you're not alone. So just having these good conversations and opportunities to be together. And you know, we have like studied, and remember that 2-year program I did, and you've done a 2-year program. So we have a lot of resources and you know, just a good guide to carry us through the night and to dig in. So we're excited about it, and we hope that you will consider joining us. So it's next month, third Wednesday of the month. So instead of the speaker forum, it's the small group. So I think that given it's February, to be your own Valentine and to learn how to love yourself and to love what is more is my little pitch. So again, Wednesday, February 19th, and it'll be in the email we send out and on our website.
This is me. Okay, so then in March, we're back to the larger format like tonight, where we will have speakers. Third Wednesday in March is the 18th. As we enter spring, we'll celebrate the season of new life, which can come in many ways and forms, as we know. So we've got 2 great ladies. We've got Dana Mitchell and Karen Staliker, who will share what new life has meant for them. So put that on the calendar. Next, chairwoman. This is something that we started this fall. Our honorary chairwoman for this month is Linda Thoren, who couldn't be with us, and we are accepting on her behalf. To be the chairwoman, she gave us a donation. It's a sponsorship that helps us cover the cost of renting the space, the chairs, the website, all that stuff that we do. So big thanks to our January chairwoman, who is Linda Thoren of Rodan and Fields. And she has some free samples for everybody. Linda was a registered nurse Many of you have seen her here. She's sometimes helping us with hospitality. Registered nurse for many years, and she decided she needed a career change. She was looking for flexibility and wanting to help people, which is her passion. So she's been using Rodan & Field skincare herself for a while and decided to become a consultant, and it's been a great experience for her. Maybe you're familiar with the products. It's a line of high-quality, dermatologist-inspired skincare. Should I read this little message? All right. I don't know why this is asking about now. All right. Checks. This universe says use this microphone. Try this.
Okay, we just have one last thing. One last thing. So Everyday Deep is about supporting and celebrating other women. And we are introducing a new way to do so. We have the Everyday Deep, the Everyday Deep directory of awesome women doing amazing things. And we think it's good for our community because we all want to know about other people who have started new businesses or pursuing their passions or what causes they're interested in. And that's what this directory is going to be. And it's good for you. If you're one of those people, this is a great opportunity to share with other people what you're doing. And it's good for us because we are was it December? We are now a registered not-for-profit. So any of the directory fees count as charitable donations to us, which we greatly appreciate, right? So we will be producing probably 200 or more full-color brochures that we'll pass out at our meetings, and we're going to have an online directory that we'll promote on Facebook and through email, again, to spread the word about what all of you wonderful, or awesome women, the amazing things you awesome women are doing. So just real quick, we will have directory ads and cover ads, and also for free cause ads, that just text listings, but if you want to tell us about charities and not-for-profits that you care about, we want to help you promote that. So, and I do want to mention, speaking of which, the Downers Grove Junior Women's Club gave us a donation this year, our first one. So we'll shout out to them and Nikki Blattner for recommending us. So the deadline's February 5th, and we'll be emailing you after tonight, but we hope you'll consider it. So thank you.
Thank you again to our wonderful speakers. Thank you, Peg. Thank you, Jennifer, for sharing your stories. And thank you to our volunteers, Kristen, and Heather, and Angela, that helped at the registration table. Check us out. We have a private Facebook group. If you're nice, we'll let you in. Super exclusive. Just kidding. But we do. We have a Facebook page and we have a Facebook group, so look for that. Please stick around. That's great, and chat with each other if you'd like, but while you're doing that, fold up your chair and put it against the wall. Okay? Thanks. Good night, everybody.